Welcome back to the Dynamic Torah podcast. This is episode 16, and we continue our mini-series on Rosh HaShanah. In this episode, we discuss two key concepts, the first being freedom of choice, and the second is Teshuva. We dig deep in discussing the relationship between the two, and a whole lot more covered in this episode. If you like our content, please like, share, and subscribe, and enjoy this week's episode. Welcome back. Part 2 of the mini-series.
Of Rosh HaShanah.
Rosh HaShanah.
On holidays. Before we start that, there was a question that was put on the comments concerning the mitzvot.
It was from a couple episodes ago. There's someone, I guess, who's been watching it and they asked a question. I saw it in the feed and they asked a question. And I can pull it up right now. Give me 1 second. Spotify here. Here, comments. It was on the episode that we did on Mitzvot.
To our audience, please send us questions.
Yeah.
This way we know you're paying attention at least, yes?
Yes. So, question is as follows. If we cannot alter the number of mitzvot, what are we to make of rabbinic statements showing the different amounts of mitzvot?
That's a very good question. So when we say rabbinic, whenever I use the term rabbinic, it is strictly Talmudic, and before. It is not post-Talmudic. That's rabbinics. That's Chachamim, Zichrono Levacha. For example, when I say our sages, we're talking about the era of the Talmud and before, pre-Mishnah even, all the way back, even right after the Supreme Court of Ezra, Beit Dino, Ezra, they started to becoming known as Rabbotenu, our sages. Mm-hmm. So when we say, the question, what he's proposing is really, it's post-rabbinic. Okay? So let's deal with rabbinic. In the Talmud, there are a couple of places, I believe one in Masechet Makot, I believe. The other one, I'm not sure where, I forgot, but it says the same statement. It tells us that Taryag mitzvot, Taryag is the numerical value of the letters 613 mitzvot were given to Moshe. This is a statement, and by Rabbi Samla'eh. He's late 3rd century of the common era in Israel. How do we know that statement is authentic tradition? There's no disagreement. You don't have somebody saying, there's actually 212. They don't say this. Or there's 615 or 680. Mm-hmm. There's no machloket. So therefore, something like that we consider as authentic tradition. We need to consider and reconsider constantly that the tradition of Jewish law is not first the text. It's oral tradition. The text captures this tradition, but the oral transmission of it preceded the text, be it Mishnah and Talmud, mm-hmm. and be it the Baraitot, things that are not contained in the Mishnah and the Talmud even. Not every Baraita that there is quoted in the Talmud even. There's many that are not. But we need to understand that the oral tradition of the Jewish people, that's prime. That's the core. And it stems all the way back to Moshe and his Supreme Court at Sinai. Later on, Moshe captures the inclusion of the oral tradition in written form that becomes the actual text and scripture of the Torah itself. So that's a fundamental principle in Judaism. So even when it comes to halakha, Jewish law, ultimately, first and foremost, oral tradition. So when we have a statement like that there's no disagreement about it, that's an authentic tradition that we take seriously. Now, who has the authority to decide which mitzvot are part of that tradition or not? It's the Supreme Court of the Jewish people. And that's according to oral tradition from the time of Moshe. That's our tradition. Can we authenticate it and prove it? No, we don't need to. That's our tradition. More than this. I always say the term more than this. I keep adding layers for some reason. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. You have a lot to say.
Because there's a lot of development on so many subjects. If we look at the text of the Torah, thinking that we can enumerate the 630 mitzvot from the actual text, it's impossible. It's impossible. Because there's many verses that tell you to do something and it's not a mitzvah. And you have a number of pesukim that repeat themselves. So what? So we have two mitzvot on the same thing? Well, maybe it's different. Well, guess what? There is a difference. Okay? The prime example that a pasuk can repeat itself 3 times, right, and have different connotations to it in law is, lo tevashrigi dibachalev yimo, do not cook a kid in his mother's milk.
Right.
You have 3 prohibitions. Fascinating. It really is amazing. I'll give you another example. Nowhere in the Torah does it say that when you want to eat an animal, let's say a cow, it doesn't say to slaughter it. It doesn't.
Doesn't say to slaughter it.
There's no pasuk. There's no pasuk that says
point.
explicitly slaughter the cow and then you can eat it.
True.
Right? It tells you, you should slaughter for the korban. You have other pesukim that have to do with slaughtering an animal, but not for, how do you say? I'll call it non-sacrilegious eating. But we know that one of the mitzvot of the 613 is to do shechita, to slaughter an animal before you eat it. That's one of the things that's enumerated. So you see, we rely on tradition for everything.
So, we discussed this in the other episode, but just very important to reiterate it. And I think it sounds counterintuitive to what's typically taught, right?
Yeah.
Because I guess the way that some of the books are laid out, that number the mitzvot, they're always attaching a pasuk to the mitzvah. So you think, oh, that's where I know the source is.
No, it's not the source.
But that's
what people think.
Right. That's what people think, that, oh, the source of the mitzvah is X. Right? For example, whenever you hear certain shiurim, like given many shiurim, they're given. Also, how do we know how do we know this is from the Torah? Because it has a pasuk that says this is from the Torah, and then they continue with the shiur. But really, it's backwards.
Correct.
So.
Exactly. Because what was going to the Jewish people first and foremost?
Right.
The oral law. Moshe he formulated to them, and he passed it on to them. Later on, it becomes a text.
Right.
So when even in the Talmud, when they bring a pasuk to substantiate or to demonstrate something, or we have midrash halacha, for example, it's strictly to demonstrate how scripture is somehow, how the oral law, how the law is somehow intertwined in the actual text, but it's not the source. It's not the source of the law. The text is not the source of the law. No. So that's so important. So what do we call that in rabbinic terminology? Asmachta. Asmachta is like a reference, like a mnemonic. Like, oh, that's why you have disagreement, as a matter of fact, on which pasuk relates to a law, to oral law. Midrash halacha, you have that. So what does that tell you? That the pasuk connected to the law, right, is up to the Supreme Court to decide which pasuk is connected to the mitzvah. So key, so important. They have the authority. to tell you which mitzvah and which is not a mitzvah. Not only that, they have the authority to unravel how do you perform the mitzvah. Now, certain things are Kabbalah from the tradition, halachic tradition, from the time of Moshe, that there are no disagreements as to how we do it. This is national consensus. This is how we do it. Now, the details throughout the course of 40 generations, from Moshe until the Talmud, every so often they changed. Was there a lot of changes in certain periods of time? Yes. One day I want to do a class about the different periods of the reformation of halakha, not the reform movements from the 1700s. I'm talking about there was different periods from the time of Shemuel, as a matter of fact. From Shemuel already.
Oh.
That there was planting seeds of shifting things when it comes to our performance and even our ideology of who God is with us. We had different periods of time because there was a crisis. And the law had to be reformed. But not a few halachot here and there. No, we're talking about serious stuff that till today we perform on a daily basis. From that time.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And there's I'm thinking about this particular topic for a while already, for a few weeks. And I think it's a fascinating subject because anyone who thinks that halakha was static is very misinformed. Halakha was never static. The law was never static. No way. It was every so often unfolding with us due to the conditions that we were going through. And that's the purpose of the law. Or else the halakha, the Torah, becomes something very archaic, that it doesn't allow us to move with the times, be it slow, and today be it super fast.
Right. Yeah, it's not slowing down.
So going back to the number was always 613. Fine. 248 dues, 365 do not dues. Now, already in the Gaonim time, I believe it's already in the 800s, late 700s, early 800s, you have halachot gedolot, you have Saadia Gaon, you have Rambam, of course. I believe there were a couple more at that period of time that started to enumerate the different mitzvot and demonstrate what they are. Okay? There are disagreements among them. The bulk is pretty much the same. Over 90% is the same. Here and there, different traditions that each one is demonstrating why they think so it be. Then you have some commentators on those books that either agree or disagree. Usually they disagree. Okay? And they give their own take why they think this is a mitzvah from the Torah or it's not a mitzvah from the Torah. Okay, where you have, for example, Rambam says that Birkat HaMazon, to say Birkat HaMazon is from the Torah.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe Rambam, Nachmanides disagrees, says no, it's rabbinic.
Right.
I think
prayer is another one.
Right, tefillah is another one. I think the disagreement there is misconstrued. For Maimonides, it's not the formula that's the issue. The formula is irrelevant, which is really rabbinic. It's rabbinic composition. Both Birkat HaMazon as well as the Amidah are all rabbinic compositions. The themes mainly, the themes are something that the Supreme Court legislated. The obligation to express yourself in a way that saying that God is the source of all blessing, that is the mitzvah, right? The obligation to connect with God via oral communication, that is the obligation. How? That's already rabbinic. But it's still a biblical mitzvah of how we do it. Who decided it's a biblical mitzvah how we do it? the Supreme Court. Okay? That is where you had different opinions as to which one is, which is not the actual number. Okay, so I just wanted to get that out of the way because it was a good question.
It's a very fair question.
Again, because there's a whole history.
Definitely.
You know, it's not a yes or no. It's not sure, but there's a whole history of the development of the different lists of mitzvot. Interestingly enough, this is interesting. We usually say that that there are 7 mitzvot that pertain to the non-Jewish people, right? The sons of Noah, Bnei Noah, Shiva Amasu Bnei Noah.
Yeah.
Okay, so they give a list. And they say, this is from the time of Noah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Some say, and I think it's more accurate, that this is from the time of the Second Temple. Exactly when, we don't know. But definitely the Supreme Court legislated laws for non-Jewish people living in the land of Israel because we had.
Mm-hmm.
The first people that we had to contend with that were really living among us were the Greeks because they colonized. And then the Romans. So the Supreme Court had to legislate certain laws that pertain to the non-Jewish people living among us so there can be common denominator as to how we're going to preserve the order in society. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Now, interestingly enough,
Mm-hmm.
you have Rabbi Shemuel ben Hofni Gaon, right? He is after Saadia, Gaon. He's living in the late 10th century, early 11th century. He was one of the head of the academies. He wrote a lot. He wrote many books, but we have very few of his writings. Now we have a little more because of the Geniza, because of the manuscripts found. And he actually says that in the chronological time of the book of Genesis, there are actually 30 mitzvot.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, 30. Where does he get it from? The Pesukim. He's reading the Pasuk, and he says, there's 30. An example he gives, he goes, well, there's a mitzvah of giving maaser. It already existed. Why? The Melchizedek gave Abraham maaser. He gave him a 10th. So they knew, right? And he gives multiple, really, he has a list. It's amazing. Now, it's not that it was incumbent upon the society to do it, but it was accepted that this is the norm and the custom and the practice of how we do. And it makes a lot of sense from the point of view of the development of civilizations and societies. You cannot have a civilization and you cannot have a group of people living with each other without a set of guidelines of how we're going to conduct with each other behaviorally. We spoke about this, that it already began in prehistoric times. There has to be coordination in order for us to achieve what we're trying to do. So if we're living in any type of civilization, that there has to be some type of stability, then there has to be certain norms. Call them custom, call them laws, call them rituals, call them behavior patterns, call it culture. It doesn't matter what you want to call it. Mm-hmm. It's understood that if you are going to be in the boundaries of this territory, this is how you're going to conduct yourselves.
Interesting.
Interestingly enough, in the Near East, in the Middle East, the Near East, Semitic people would have a tablet or have a type of a column in the entrance of the city with those guidelines carved on the actual stone of it. Yeah. Archaeology, we found this, we know, and now we can understand what Moshe Rabbeinu tells the Jewish people, that when you enter the land of Israel, you're going to make these columns, in a sense, and put these words on it. It's not the whole book of Devarim. No, it's the principles that when you walk into this territory, these are our guidelines, and if you want to be here, you need to follow them. If not, you need to leave.
Right.
We know this is real. Again, we have evidence, 100% evidence, that this was the case.
Fascinating.
Pillars.
fascinating.
But it makes sense.
It does make sense. It does make sense. I mean, listen, it's like the law of the land. When you're living in a certain place, you abide by them and respect it. And if you don't, then
you can't be here.
The door's
and
over
if you
there.
break the law, you'll be incarcerated.
Yeah.
This is it. This is how, whether we like it or not, whether it's patrimony, it doesn't make a difference. The fact of the matter is there has to be certain guidelines. Whenever there are human relations, there needs to be guidelines of how we are going to conduct ourselves among each other.
Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to continue with the theme of Rosh HaShanah, Yom Kippur. Two main themes. One theme is a little more about the power of freedom of choice that is granted us by God, and the theme of Teshuva. Right? And they both go hand in hand. You can't do Teshuva unless you have freedom of choice. It doesn't apply to an organism that has no freedom of choice. The same way that a person committed good by choice, if you do bad, it's also by choice. Consciously, unconsciously, mistake, on purpose. We're always given choices to determine what we want the result to be. All the time. Some are very important. Some are based on moral behavior of really right and wrong, of righteousness or malevolence. And some are, what am I eating today? Do I want sushi or do I want a sandwich? It's all relative. Do I make a right or do I make a left? Am I going to drive 45 miles an hour or 60? You can't compare that to who you're going to marry. So everything is all relative when it comes to our choices. Some are, detrimental. Okay? By the way, Chachamim say this, sometimes there's a moment in our life that one decision is going to dictate the rest of our lives.
Yeah, they say. Do they say this with Yosef, in the story of Yosef, or they make an allusion to it because that's essentially what happened to him?
I don't think they make the allusion. They say every person has a moment. Every person has a moment, a sha'ah, and we don't know when that moment is. By the way, we don't know. We will only know way down the road that as our life unfolded to be able to see. Look what that decision caused a chain reaction for me to make decisions based on that prime decision, by the way, which led me to the result of A or B. And I didn't know what the result is going to be. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Sometimes we make the right decision and we get a bad result. Sometimes we make the wrong decision, we get, it
worked out.
It worked out, but
Right.
that is not the pattern. That is not the
No, that's an anomaly.
the frequency of things.
That's an anomaly, but that's a part. That's baked into
The probability and improbability.
Right. So it's not black and white. It's
No.
not that if you make a bad decision, you're automatically going to get bad, and vice versa. That if you make a good decision, then you're automatically getting good.
I'll give you. You know what? Here, these are real examples, right? A person had a business, right? Was doing very, very well, and made a wrong decision, made a bad investment, lost it all, broke, bankrupt, broke, nothing. Okay. He thought it was a good decision. It doesn't seem that risky, but for whatever reason, it was out of his hand. The market crashed. I don't know. The real estate market crashed. Something happened. He didn't do anything that was really a mistake or wrong. He just did business the way everybody does business. He didn't take a big risk, for example. Okay, and now he has to start again. Okay? And by him starting again and learning from what he did wrong, as well as learning what he did right, from his own experience and well as others' experiences, he became 100% more successful than what he was. So, would you say that his failure led to success? Absolutely.
Sure.
Now, does this type of an example happen to many people in business? Yes. Is it guaranteed? No. No. But it happens more often than not. And it usually happens to people who go through this in their late 20s, mid 30s. Because when we're young, we're willing to take more risks. We're willing to say, if something will happen, whatever it is, I'll get up, I'll build myself up, and I'll do it. The older we get, the less risky we want to do. We want to do things more guaranteed. I only want to make 5% of my money, have a good day. I'm not looking for 11, 12%. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's fine. Okay? So those bad decisions or those mistaken decisions that he made that made him broke actually led him to success.
It's perspective, though, because you can make the same argument that, yeah, he might have gotten successful just out of fluke also. Like, yeah, maybe he learned from his mistakes, maybe not. Maybe he really is not such a good businessman and he was successful the first time, failed, and then he made another business and got lucky. Not to say that he learned his, maybe he didn't learn his lesson.
It's not lucky. It's about he made decisions, he made choices that led him to that. And that you only figure out down the road. Because then you're going to say, you know what, I see how I got here. I need to go backwards and connect the dots. But the more I go backwards and look at the decisions that I made, I'll realize which one it was, which choice it was that was the prime choice that unfolded this whole ripple effect. And that ripple effect caused me to make decisions based on that prime choice first. Yeah. Mm. That's the moment that Chachamim talk about. Mm. Now, although they're talking about a moment when it comes to a person determining their purpose of existence, which is even much more deeper. They discover their real essence of why they even exist. Right? That's the so-called mystical moment of a person, which is very personal and subjective. I don't think there's enough people who tap into that. I don't think there's enough. And it's a shame.
It sounds like a human problem across time.
Yeah. That's why Chachamim made that statement. If it wasn't a problem, why would they make that statement? It's like, it's obvious. They made that in order for a person to become aware. What mechanism do we have that helps us realize that moment? It's Teshuva. Because when I go through my day, and when I go through my week, when I go through my life, the same thing, same pattern, ordinary. And I'm not saying, where can I fix things in my life? In my personality, in my character, in my relationships, that everybody has room to improve. It doesn't matter who you are. Then you're going to start to contemplate, who really am I? How did I get to the situation? So we need Teshuvah, right, for us to return to our true essence of who we really are. And that takes a lot of effort.
Okay. How do we know who we really are? How do we know our true essence then? Because meaning, how do you know? Because yes, we're trying to go back to our true essence. Fine. When do you know you hit that point? Or will you ever know if you hit that point or not?
It's up to you.
I mean, I could say I hit my true essence right now and I'm good.
That you're only, 29?
Hey.
You're going to change your mind when you're 40 and 50.
Sure.
When you have kids, when you have grandchildren, when when you're going to have people working for you, when you're going to have different relationships with people, when you're going to say, what can I contribute to others to make them better and successful?
So what does that do with the true essence?
That is the true essence of our soul. See, we use the word nefesh, we use the word soul, but it's all actually related to our tzelem Elohim, to our image of God. Now, Rambam explains the word nefesh and soul in his writings as the uniqueness of the organism. He says, a horse has a soul. A dog has a soul. Every living organism has a soul that distinguishes it from another organism, another species. Okay? So the human family has a human soul. It makes us unique.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what is this human soul that we say? Everything I'm saying is according to what his writings throughout the Mishnah Torah, his commentary to the Mishnah, his Moreh Nevuchim. A lot of it, I would say, a lot of it also stems from Greek philosophy, in particular Aristotle, as well as some writings of the Gaonim. Okay. Consciousness is part of our soul.
Okay.
High level of intelligence, it's part of our soul. And when I say soul, it's also tzelem Elohim. It's also image of God. Okay.
Okay.
The power of human articulation with language that our brain, our mind, is able to invent language that articulates not only things that are objective reality, but also subjective, which are feelings, passions, thoughts, emotions, abstractness that we don't even see. Symbolism, metaphors, poetry, that is also part of our nefesh, part of our tzelem Elohim. In addition to that, are the power, the physical power that our bodies have. What a cell does, for example, that's part of the nefesh that we have, because it's unique to the human cell, as well as the awareness and the consciousness that we know we have freedom of choice. That is part of our nefesh and our tzelem Elohim. So when we say the word soul, it's really our mind. And it really what makes us different than every living organism that we know. We definitely share a lot of the physiology and the genetics and the biology and the chemicals of all living organisms on Earth, including minerals we have. We have in our body minerals, inorganic. That's unique. That's unique to life. Great. Now, are there different categories of species? Well, you would say more simple, more complex. Yes, we know that. And the human is the most complex living organism on Earth. And because we have so much of this power, and not only that, we are aware of this power that we have, God gives us instructions of how to use that power and how to choose.
So, when you hear scientists and other philosophers and atheists, let's say, who make the claim that we do not have freedom of will, freedom of choice, and they argue it from a biological perspective, they have their philosophical takes, does that put the human being in a status of permanent victimhood and fate, and is in effect antithetical to the Torah and its messages?
Well, it's also antithetical to other philosophies.
Sure, and other philosophies as well, but with the arguments that they make, does that, like, what is so compelling about those arguments that many people believe them? And what is the response to it? And I mean, this is a whole topic within itself, but it seems like it's diametrically opposed to what the Torah stands for completely.
Yes.
And the reason why I'm bringing up the victimhood argument as well is that if we want to say that we're victims to the chemicals in our bodies and that we're victims to predetermination, then
nobody can be held accountable for anything that
right.
we do.
So then why even
It's a free
change?
for all.
Right. So then why even change? Why even study more? Why even, like, my argument is, why even continue to pursue at that point?
Well, if we don't pursue, we retrogress and we become savages and we will kill each other. We don't want that.
Right. It's just funny that the argument's made from the top minds, the most intellectual and the
That's
scientists.
Fine. Listen, Bil'am was very, very highly intelligent.
Sure.
He was wrong. So.
Sure. Right.
But this is the before there was these philosophies, quote unquote, there was the philosophy of Avodah Zarah, of paganism. Essentially, that is also what paganism says. Everything is predetermined. It says, I don't determine my fate. The gods do, the stars do, the constellation do, the sun, the motion. I don't know. A bird chirping the wrong way is going to determine if I'm going to have a good or bad day. A black cat crosses my door.
Yeah.
So this idea is very ancient and very pagan.
Right.
The revolution of the Torah to humanity, to define humanity by God, is that's a major misconception. And that is not what Tselem Elohim is. The beauty of the story of Adam and Eve is the self-discovery of who they are. The genius of the human mind to be able to transition to thinking what it was, not even you can't even say the word thinking in the same terms that we think now or after, to processing what they were or how early humans were, prehistoric humans were, and now you have a higher order thinking being, that there's major brain development, as look at the results by themselves. Now, if we're gonna, for whatever reason, thank God, I think the Torah is the one that really shifted humanity slowly.
Shifted everything.
A lot. It really did a lot. Although, again, I'll go before the Torah, there were norms and, right, you can't do this, you can't do that, and you have different codes, be it in Egypt or the Babylonians.
Yeah, fine.
It's not based on the premise of Tselem Elohim. It's not based on the premise that all humans have the image of God and my fate is determined by me. If something would happen, they say that's accidental, but it doesn't matter. You did this. You got to pay. I don't know. You got to pay a fine, or we kill you, or this and that. Here, the Torah says there's something called Tselem Elohim. There's something called right and wrong, good and evil, and you choose freely, consciously, as to what you want, and you will be held responsible and accountable. The choice that we make, we own it, including the consequence of what's going to happen. We own that. That is what the Torah says to Adam and Eve. You own this, you are to blame, you will not get out of it. What are you going to do about it? God gives them the opportunity to do Teshuvah. They chose not to.
Yeah.
God gave Cain, do Teshuvah. He chose not to. He chose not to.
Yeah.
To do Teshuvah, really? He just says, oh, it's very heavy for me to carry this burden. That's not Teshuvah. He just doesn't want to carry the burden. Why? Because now he's going to be a nomad all over the place. So life stinks.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is this. Even though he accepted the fate that he's going to be a nomad, he solves this problem. What does he do? He builds a city. And he calls it after his son, Hanoch. What does that tell it's something so revolutionary in the Torah itself. God tells him, you're going to be a wanderer. It sounds like a decree. It sounds like his fate, right? Cain says, I accept it, but I'm going to find a solution.
Interesting.
That is the power of the human mind.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Again, look at the Torah is always teaching us something. You can look at it, oh, it's my fate, God, da, 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 da. Even when you have God saying so.
Yeah.
I can still find another path in order to change my situation. I'm going to have to live with it. Cain lived with it. Yes.
Yeah.
And later on we have, Metushelach. No, Lemech. 7 generations after Cain, that he killed someone in the field, and Chachamim say it was actually Cain. It's like he paid the price.
Oh, okay.
All that, right? And Lemech says, oh, I killed someone, oh boy, I'm going to pay the price now and all that. We have to look at the book of Bereshit. And this is how I teach it, as the unfolding of the human mind and human consciousness. And we see that humanity throughout this book goes through different stages and steps of realization. It's fascinating. It really is fascinating. I'll say the same thing about Moshe. If we look at Moshe's career from his beginnings,
sure, of course.
You see his slow transformation. The way he starts to speak to Paro, and at the end, what a total transformation. Guess what? As well as the Jewish people, 40 years, transformation. This is one of the main messages of the Torah. God is always putting situations in front of us to choose, to decide, how are we going to transform and have a metamorphosis? Are we going to have it or not? And we determine it. But the opportunities are there of how we want it to be. Don't think that it's set in stone. Oh no. So it requires a high level of awareness. That's why we should always, any choice that we make, especially important ones, put away our emotions and feelings. Use your reason, use your judgment, have as much clarity as possible, and then make the decision.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking about the story of Adam and Hava with my friend on Shabbat, and we were really discussing back and forth, and the mistake and the responsibility, and pointing the finger and the victimhood, and the idea that God gives them the opportunity to step up. Did you do it? No yelling, no screaming, no anger, no threats.
Nothing.
Just a very, very simple question.
Subtle.
I wouldn't say it. It's so direct.
It's there, yeah.
But it's not aggressive. It's just, did you do it? That's it. And then the fact that the responses that God gets from Adam and Hava, it really tells the whole story.
It's disappointing.
It is disappointing, but it's so real. I mean, but what is there? The woman that you gave me.
Yeah, he blames God.
Right? That I asked for because I was lonely, and then you gave me her, and now because of you, it's her fault and it's your fault. It's amazing. It's amazing how we think when it comes to owning up to personal responsibility and accountability.
It's difficult because it requires us to humble ourselves and admit wrong, and for whatever reason, be it psychological, be it cultural, I think it even happens to do with be it natural, because when we're faced by admitting a mistake, when we're saying I did this and all that, it's as if I'm threatened.
It's a vulnerability.
Yeah, but it's because it's a vulnerability, as if it's threatening my survival.
Well, yeah, I'll take it a step further now.
Okay.
So now let's break that down more. You're exposing yourself to the ability for someone to now exploit you even more for the mistake that you made. It's a defense mechanism.
So you go to survival mode.
You go fight or flight.
Again, that's part of our deep
Yeah.
reptilian complex, our survival instincts. And automatically, I deflect.
It is
It's a natural mechanism.
It's a knee-jerk reaction.
So what does the Torah do? Go against your nature. I keep saying this. The Torah is, through its narratives, besides the mitzvot, through its narratives, you need to go against your nature to make the right decision. Impulsive is your nature. The nahash
Yeah.
is your nature.
Mm-hmm.
Is your impulsive nature. It needs to be tamed with your mind, which is your good inclination. And that takes a lot of awareness, it takes effort, and it takes maturity.
Yeah.
No. So the subject, it's an amazing subject, and Maimonides, we said that in the 5th chapter of Hilchot Teshuva, no wonder you're going to put it here, right? It's like really breaks down the whole subject of freedom of choice in it. It's a fascinating chapter. A person has the free will to determine what they want to do, who they want to be. Right? And as well as the characters that we have, although nowadays we know that genetics does play a part with our chemical balance or imbalance, and it's going to make me physiologically react differently with feelings.
So we're predisposed to certain things. Right. Sure.
Still, we know, because we have a mind and understand, that we can be tamed, we can control ourselves. So, by the way, males especially have a predisposition to be violent and to kill. You know, I read a book maybe 4 or 5 times the past few years. It's so dense. It really is one of the densest books I've ever read. It's the language is coarse. It could be because it was translated from the German to the English, but it's a very, very dense book, and it's called Humanize. It was written in the 1920s or 30s by a German.
Walter Burkett. Walter Burkett.
And it is such a dense book. But the word homoniken, do you know what it means? Man the killer.
What?
Yeah.
Oh. Here.
And it's okay. But what does it mean? By the way, the introduction, just the introduction, it took me maybe 4 or 5 months to finish it. It was and I would be reading a page or a page and a half, and I'd have to put the book down, because every sentence, every half a sentence, you got to think. It's a very deep book.
Sure.
And what does he demonstrate? He demonstrates, according to his theory, that we have the predisposition to be violent and to kill. And one of the reasons why we became civilized and became modern is because we were able to kill. It's just very interesting.
That sounds so counterintuitive.
I know, but it's very interesting
okay.
that we learned so many things by unfortunately killing when we were prehistoric humans.
It's like we learned.
It's not killing first of humans. It's the killing of animals.
Animals first, okay.
Which led to different rituals. Which rituals? Because the book is based on ancient Greek rituals.
Yeah.
But he prepares the stage first and foremost as to our characteristics that we have when it comes to violence. And that is why blood, by the way, blood is used in symbolism throughout literature all over the world. Why blood? more than water, blood. It's something unreal. And even in the Torah, it deals with blood stuff. Okay, be it the sacrifice, be it where you can't drink blood, be it it's poured on the side of the Mizbeach. We can't eat blood.
Can't eat it either, right?
The physical life is symbolized in the blood.
Yeah.
So many things.
Nefesh, yeah.
Okay, so there's so many things in it. So we need to really understand where we really come from and why we are the way we are.
Okay.
Okay. So, and what is the leap that the Torah does? You're not savage man. You might have remnants. Yeah. You might have things hardwired in your brain. Yeah. You might have the physiology that you are the way you are. Oh yeah. But that is not who you really are. The human physiology does not define who the human is according to the Torah. It's the Tzelem Elohim. It's the human mind that defines who we are, as well as the choices we make determine what we are even. And we need the guideline. The guide is God. God is guiding us to the best of the ability that the Torah proposes.
Right.
Right. So the Torah, we're getting to these parashiot, by the way, very, very soon.
Yeah.
You know, Moshe says outright, "Re'eh natati lefanecha." See, I put in front of you, hayom, today, et ha'chaim v'et ha'tov, life, the essence of life and the good, v'et ha'mavet v'et ha'ra, death and evil. Basically, Chaim is something beneficial. Mavet, death, is something non-beneficial. The results.
Yeah.
You are going to determine the results of the course of your life. And you'll be able to correct things, as a matter of fact. Now, fascinating, Moshe Rabbeinu uses the word Hayom. Why is Hayom? It's always now.
It's always in the present.
Now. Don't say, oh, this, that choices they had back then, and now we discover that we have no choices, everything is preordained. No, the Torah says, Hayom, now. That principle is still alive, well alive today, right? That I'm instructing you today, again, today, Hayom. To love the Lord your God, to walk in His path, which is morality, with Mitzvot, and to keep His Mitzvot, and His ordinances and His statutes, and you shall live and you shall prosper with and God is going to bless you on the land that He's going to give you to inherit. All right? And He says this again in the same parasha. He says, I propose in front of you life and death, and you should choose life. Now, what is he really talking about, life? He's talking about following God's path, who's the source of life. God is the source of your life, and He's the one who's going to prolong your life. Meaning, He's going to give you meaning in your life. You follow God's path, you will find meaning in your life, because He's asking you to accept a set of responsibilities that's going to give you meaning and purpose and guidance and structure and order in society. So it's only prosperous. Only. Now what happens when we mess up? Moshe Rabbeinu says, I know. In all likelihood, he says, it's not a decree. Okay? It's not preordained. In all likelihood, you're going to turn your back to God. Right? You're not going to listen to Him. You're going to follow different gods, which is a basic meaning you're going to follow a different path. that is contrary to the Torah itself, more impulsive, we'll call it, more of an impulsive way of life, less structured with how to be a moral human being. And this is also going to happen to you outside of Israel. You're going to be among the Goyim. Why does he say this? Why does Moshe Rabbeinu say this? Because we're going to follow their ways. Not the good Goyim, not the righteous Goyim. The Goyim who don't have good set of values. Today we'll call it pop culture values. The low class values.
Can you define that?
I say this. I say that there's two types of people. Not good and evil. We all do good and we all do good. We all do evil. But there's really two types of people when you think about it. There's people who have class and people who have no class.
Sure.
People have dignity and people who are undignified. People have self-respect and people who don't have self-respect. Okay? It is the way you carry yourself. Do we make mistakes? Of course we do. But in general, how do you carry yourself? Why is it that we have terms to say that a person who has class and behaves properly, we say, that's a gentleman, or she's a lady. Why? Because they carry themselves in a way that is on a more higher order, which means more self-awareness of how I'm behaving. Okay? But then we have the terminology, oh, that person is so crass. That person is classless, he's a lowlife. He's like uneducated, uncultured. In Spanish we say mal educado. Mal educado is not uncultured, he's poorly educated. Yeah. In other words, this person was given a bad education because no matter what, we behave according to the standards that we were taught. So there is a difference of who we are based on our behavior. Even standard society, in all languages, you have different terminologies to determine how a person carries themselves. All the time, we have that. The Torah teaches humanity. God says, I want you to be dignified. I gave you Tselem Elohim. I gave you an essence that is like a shadow of me. Based on what we described as the soul before in the beginning of the podcast. Is anything greater than that? How can you even think to behave in an undignified way? You're not a creature. You're not a beast. You're not. The Torah is the only book in ancient history to raise and elevate the level of human value of the self. There is no other book in ancient history that ever did this. Across the board to all humanity, no discrimination. And it's the beginning of this book. It's not in the middle. There's no Jewish people in Genesis even. People, nation, not yet. That's Shemot. A Jewish family, really? That's Jacob and his children. Oh, who? Adam and Eve? Those are the parents of all humans. So what does it do? What is it trying to do? Raise our level from, you're not a lowly beast. You're not that. Don't compare yourself to that. Meaning, don't even behave that way. Don't behave undignified.
So in a way, going back to the story of Adam and Hava, the fact that God even gives them the opportunity demonstrates his
What
elevation.
They retrogressed. The Torah and God through the Torah is always trying to give us opportunities to elevate who we are.
And Teshuva is the tool for rectifying us as well.
Yes, but there's steps.
Oh, of course.
You got to rework that now.
It reminds me of, have you ever heard of the book, have you ever heard of this guy named Ray Dalio?
No.
Okay, Ray Dalio, he's a hedge fund investor, one of the most successful hedge fund investors of all time. He wrote a book called Principles. And the cover of the book, or the way that he explains it, it's a 5-step book. I think you have like the child's book in the house. You got it for David one time. And it basically, he has a few key elements in it, and one of them, a few of them I'll read, is as follows. He has a formulation which says pain plus reflection equals progress.
Yeah.
Right? And another one that he has is radical truth and radical transparency. And what he has in the book is the way that you ultimately build success is you have a cycle where you start up, you're good, and then you dip, but then you learn, you recoup, and then you kind of make the loop, and then you go higher, and then you go straight again, and then you loop again, and then you go higher, and then you continue looping again. That's the trajectory that we're meant to take with the Torah, with Teshuva, with freedom of choice.
With the choices, exactly.
With the choices
with the choices that we
make.
have. With the choices that we have, yeah.
Right? So the way when you started talking about steps, it made me think of the book. I have it in the house actually. It's very good.
So what does the word Teshuvah even mean? Teshuvah, really, it's usually loosely repent, but that, I don't know, I'm not sure what that exactly means. But if I look at the word Teshuvah, it means returning. To return, lashuv. And that is such a positive thing. You know why? What is God telling us? I want you to return to the state of how you were originally. Good. You were pure. You had a pure soul. So this is positive. So just because you did something bad, on purpose even, you're not damned. God says, you're not evil. I created you. Good. But you allowed your impulses sometimes to overtake your judgment, and you made wrong decisions. But I want you to return to me. Return to me, return to the source of good. So a person doesn't have to say, I did something bad, that's it, I'm damned, the hell with it, life sucks, I'm depressed, nothing's going to change.
Nothing matters.
Nothing matters. It's all over. I'm worthless. God says, no.
It's so easy to fall in
Yes,
that path,
it does,
right?
because that's not using our what? Our tselem Elohim. We're forgetting the value of who we are. We're forgetting what God told us. That's why God tells. He says, this is fascinating. I don't know what we would do without the Torah. I don't know. God says, when all these things are going to happen to you, right? It's in the end of the Parashat Nitzavim. The blessing and the curses, meaning the good things and the bad things that I'm putting forward for you. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. Okay? Your heart is going to return when you're going to be living among all the non-Jewish people that God sent you there, because you're going to be living in exile. It's going to happen. It's just probability. You're going to return to your heart, right? Or make your heart return. Really, it's our mind. It's our decisions. Listen to what the next pasuk says. It says, "V'shavta ad Adonai Elohecha." Who are we returning to? God, which really return to His law, His will. V'shamata bekolo, and you shall listen to what He tells you. Kechol asher unuchi mitzvacha hayom, as to everything that I'm instructing you today. You ata uvanecha, you and your children. B'chol levavecha chol nafshecha, with all your heart and with all your soul. Okay, and now. The next pasuk, it says, when you're going to do that, God says, when you're going to return to me, V'shav Adonai Elohecha et shivutecha v'richamecha. Now, V'shav Adonai Elohecha? How would you even explain that? What do you mean, V'shav Adonai Elohecha?
I mean, well, obviously, we can't say that it's literally God returning, per se, because God is constant, as we discussed many a time. It's perception. When when we reshape our perceptions and believe and now create our trajectory and a path for ourselves that we're on the path of God, it's found the Torah Mitzvot, it shifts our perception to now feel that God is with us on our side as well. And that, as a result, then opens up the beracha for us to receive from Him as well.
So this is how Saadia Gaon. For me, he's the best. I don't know.
He's always been. He's been the best.
I know I mentioned him in the past, maybe a few podcasts ago, that his brevity is so deep.
Yeah.
And usually when his brevity, he's telling you something that's fundamental.
Okay.
It's a principle in his own way. And
Okay.
again, I'm reading from his tafsir. I'm reading from his so-called translation slash really commentary to the Torah. It's just like Ankelos, the
Sure.
Aramaic. He has the Arabic.
Yeah.
It's a linear, it's a linear translation slash commentary. That's all it is.
Sure.
It's not his long commentary.
Right. Okay.
He says, when the Torah says, "V'shav Adonai Elohecha et shivutecha," he says, "Ki az Adonai Elohecha yashuv alecha, v'yashuv v'yesov otcha mikol ha'amim." When Saadia says, "Then Adonai your God yashuv alecha," He will return your teshuvah to you. In other words, God is saying, when you will turn to me, I will turn to you. I will help you do teshuvah when you want to do teshuvah. I will not stop you. I will not block you. You rebelled against me. What is the usual response when somebody does something really bad to us? Get him. Right? God says, you rebelled against me, my little child. But when you want to return to me, I accept your teshuvah. I'm going to help you even do teshuvah. Yashuv alecha, and He'll return to you and bring you back. Where? Bring you back to Him. What Saadia here is saying is it's a deep fundamental of our relationship with God. Very, very deep. The way we have a relationship with God is how we react with Him. If I want to feel God in my life, I got to let Him in my life. If I am evil, guess what? If I'm evil, if I'm evil, I'm bad, I'm conceited, do you know what usually happens? If you happen to say, I believe in God, you start viewing God that way. It's a projection. But if you're someone who's kind, who's merciful, who's humble, that is who God describes. That's a Torah. Because God wants us to view Himself that way too. He wants us to be that way, so we view Him that way. This is something very, very deep in our psychology that Chachamim imply. They don't say it the way we understand psychology. They say something very, very, very deep. They say that when God appeared to Yitzhak, and then God appears to Yaakov, and then God appears to Moshe, and then when the Jewish people sing their song after they cross the Sea of Reeds, they associate God and their father. Anochi Elohe Avicha. I am the God of your father. Mm-hmm. He says this, right? Elohe Avi v'aro memenu. He is the God of my father. Of course, patrimony plays a role, but it's really something very, very deep. The way our Father treated us is usually the way we view God treating the self. Mm-hmm. That's why the enormous responsibility that the Torah puts the onus on the Father to teach His Son Torah. Because very often, that is the projection of who we view God as our parent. We say Avinu, God is our Father. So what does that mean? I only have one father, so then I'm going to associate him. How am I going to associate him to be? Good, kind to me, caring for me, or a dysfunctional parent who's an evil idiot who abandoned me? It's something so deep. So we all have parents, and all parents make mistakes. It's true. Baruch Hashem, we have parents that let's make mistakes. All parents do it. We should be very careful that the way we conduct ourselves, not only how we treat our children, but how we treat our spouse, how we treat others, friends, how we treat strangers. We need to improve. We need to do better, because very often that is how later on children who grow up and become adults, that's what's wired in their brain, and to change that, for them to see it in a different light, it's difficult. It takes a lot of training to reorient and to rewire that part of our mind that we so captured when we were children. So it's enormous. Again, it's enormous awareness and responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Who are we supposed to emulate? That's why the Torah, Chachamim say, emulate God. God says, emulate me. This way you'll be also a good parent. It's because children usually emulate their parents. When they're younger, much more. And then they get older, and teenagers, they rebel, and then they come to their senses eventually.
Yeah, I listened to this on one of the podcasts. One of the hosts, he says the following, that every child goes through 3 phases as they're growing up in relation to their parents. Idolize, demonize, and humanize.
Perfect. Yeah.
It's a great line. Credit goes to Patrick Bet-David on his podcast. He talks about fatherhood and things a lot, and he references this point a lot, and it's so true.
It's solid.
It is so solid. It's very wise. I mean, think about it. I mean, the question always is on this between the second and third part, the demonizing part and the humanizing part. What I've discovered is that the sooner you can accept and humanize your parents, the more open your relationship becomes with them.
Because you start to understand each other better.
Oh yeah. You stop having such high and lofty expectations of who they should have been, and you stop victimizing yourself in relation to them and blaming them for your faults.
Yeah, so that's something that we spoke about last week, that in order to be able to be forgiven and to forgive, you need to have humility. Because if I need to forgive someone, the easiest way is for me to say, I need to be forgiven also, because I'm also a yo-yo.
Yeah.
He's a yo-yo, she's a yo-yo, I'm a yo-yo, we're all yo-yos. And the Torah tells us, sometimes you'll be a yo-yo. But guess what? God will never shut the door on us.
It's the craziest part, because it's so beyond reason. And in a way, it sounds very naive, right? Because if we're never going to shut the door on some people, we end up hurting ourselves. So what's the balance in terms of...
Be careful.
I guess it's don't associate yourself with that person.
No.
Or...
Be polite.
Be polite, but
That's
beyond
it.
that, just high and high and by and by.
But you need to be careful. Why?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to get hurt again, which is acceptable. It's understandable.
Yeah.
But the way the Torah portrays God.
Yeah.
He says, I will always take you back as many times as you will rebel against me.
And I think that's only
God.
Only God can do that. He has the capacity for that.
Yeah. Yes. Because he's the only one who understands us perfectly. We don't understand ourselves. The human mind, which is fascinating, the human brain does not understand itself. We know it's conscious. We know it is aware. We know it has thought. It will never, ever be able to understand itself because it didn't create itself. only God knows us perfectly.
Right. So God giving us Teshuva and freedom of choice with it, obviously. Freedom of choice and Teshuva with it. Like you said, it's truly all about that opportunity. And we have it all the time.
Yes.
And not just that, but I think, generally speaking, I think it's fair to say that usually, like, people are usually good, and then, like, they make mistakes and they screw up, rather than the opposite. The people are bad, and then they do good things sometimes.
We have more good in the world than evil. Thank God. We need more.
The evil is just so much stronger. Like, it's, even though it's less, it's way more powerful and weighty.
Because evil is never equated with good. Evil, you need very little for it to destroy all the good.
Yeah.
How long did it take to build a building? Years. 2 years, 1 year. How long does it take to knock it down? 10 seconds.
Moments.
Explosive. 10 seconds, bye. Okay, now guess what? Now imagine you need to rebuild that building with rubble. You know, it'll take you maybe 10 times longer to build it from bring new material. It will never be the same, ever. Okay? The same thing, Chachamim tell us, is what we do to our soul. When we do things that are not good, bad for us, we stain it. It's like we put filters, and we're not allowing God's quote unquote light, His benevolence, His connection with us to be strong. It gets weaker. However, we say that God gave many gifts to humanity and the Jewish people. We say the Torah is a gift from God. We say Tzelem Elohim, human consciousness is a gift from God. We say the Shabbat is also a gift from God. We say the Torah is a gift from God, as well as Teshuvah is a gift from God. The ability for God to accept us through Teshuvah is probably top 3, because the purpose of Teshuvah is for us to be able to move on and unfold, and to move on and unfold, and to learn from our mistakes and to move on. If you don't learn from your mistakes, you did not move on. You remained in your failure. No good. You didn't advance. You didn't grow. You didn't mature. So as much as we can, we should learn. Yes, we will make mistakes. Learn from the mistake. Do not repeat it on purpose, clearly. Okay? And grow. Grow as much as we can. And that again, that's a gift from God. God only wants us to grow. He only wants us to become better. B'rei Olam, He never puts blockades to stop us from growing. We do. We are usually the ones who are detrimental to ourselves, to our lives, not God. No. So I think we talked about some very deep ideas, deep fundamentals, preparing us for Rosh HaShanah. Next week, I think maybe we'll discuss some of the themes that are in the tefillah itself, maybe a little bit of the liturgy.
Right, in the Musaf.
Which is extremely powerful. Extremely, the liturgy, the poetic language in the tefillah that expresses really what it is, the human soul.
Right.
Really. And the point of those tefillot is really to touch our souls, to take away some of those filters that are not allowing God's light and intelligence.
You're seeing it now. I was watching some of the live streams from the Kotel.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
No, that's beyond moving.
That is, and from all walks of life.
Tens of thousands crowding.
And the
but look, when
amazing.
When they're done with the selihot, if you were to ask every person, how do you feel now? They'll tell you, I feel great. It's as if I was able to, I don't know, breathe again.
It's like a release.
I feel healthy.
It's
again.
a release.
It's a release.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Look what it does to us, again, psychologically.
Right. It's incredible.
So that is, again, we should look at it as God's gift to us, teaching us what humanity should be.
Yeah.
And viewing ourselves through His lens, which is the Torah lens.
Right. Right.
Okay?
Until next time.
Baruch Adonai Olam.
Amen. Amen.